Good morning. Good morning. It's Wednesday Wisdom. And this is the last time we're here with Stephanie Pinto. Stephanie, I know. I did the same with Brenda. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been loving these conversations and I don't want them to end. So I love the idea of this extension in the interviews instead of just doing a one-off, like just really pulling out what it is that you know best about, which is, emotional intelligence with children and parents, right?
Yeah, it's the stuff I like to talk about. I can waffle on.
And let me just get on here and check to see if anyone is watching. So today we're going to be talking about anxiety in kids and how to help. Like, oh my gosh, what a big bang to finish off with, right?
Yeah. Oh, this is coming up like everywhere. Just I'm reading about it, I'm hearing it from parents and everything. So good timing.
Yeah. And actually, like maybe I'm going to smack you in the face with something straight away. But it's really interesting. I mean, in our time, it was stressful. You're way younger than I am, but it was stressful going to school, and I had anxiety. I was very shy. You wouldn't believe it, right? I hardly spoke, which is, not 100% true, but I was very, very shy, and I did find it really, really challenging to be at school and socialise and all of those things. And, the guys hassling and the girls, whether they liked you or not, and, like horrible things that can happen at school. I remember the boys pulling my dress up just before recess, just before the first bell. So I know the first bell had gone, and so everyone's going into the quad and they've pulled my dress up in front of everyone, right? Like, I know, and like I didn't get teased that much, right? But like there's kids that have major issues. Then on top of that, these kids these days are dealing with the social media aspect of things. They're dealing with parents that are way more stressed with what's happening in the social, economic environment. But then on top of that, they've just been through 2 years of isolation, don't touch anyone, all be behind masks.
Yeah.
And, like you're not allowed to cuddle and blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm gonna throw that at you and wait and see if you're gonna catch it, because it's massive, isn't it?
I will totally catch it. And let me tell a quick little story to kind of set the scene from where I'm coming from. So I had anxiety as a child and teenager and into my 20s. And I feel like it's just an underlying, that's my tendency to have that slightly anxious tendency, like personality trait, which means I overthink and I worry, I consider all the what ifs and stuff like that. And I can see particularly social interactions in a slightly negative view. I'm like, oh, did I say the wrong thing? Oh, I talk too much, or what do they think I'm an idiot? So lots of that stuff. But yeah, as a kid, I was definitely anxious. And the thing is, I hid it well. And I was a good girl, and I had good friends, and I got good grades and so on. But under the surface, in certain situations, when it just got too much, then I would faint, which was my stress response, which is one of the, like, if we think about anxiety, it's that nervous system activation of the stress and the worry and the fear and the scared, fear, frightened, that kind of thing about what might happen or what's going to happen, so I sort of fell into that with, speaking in front of people and going up at assembly and stuff like that, and even into my job as a speech pathologist, which I was in my 20s. And it's like it can be so excruciating and debilitating, and like I was not choosing. Like, this is the thing for parents to understand. I think at least in the circles I'm in, there is a big understanding now that kids are not choosing to be like this. They're not choosing to avoid or be silly or be shy. It's not a choice. They're not trying, like, we don't need to motivate them more or dangle a carrot or anything. If it's school or swim lesson,
push them out of their comfort zones, because
it's not, that's like that they bloody want to be able to just get in the pool and swim, or they just want to be able to walk past a dog and not. I have a kid at the moment who will run across the road to the other side of the road if he sees a dog. So working on that. So it's not a choice, and you don't need to motivate your kid anymore. And you also, this is the thing, there are a few parenting traps. I know we're going all over the place, but
no, it's good.
There are a few parenting traps, or a few traps that we just as individuals fall into when we're trying to support or help someone who's anxious. And one of those is that we tend to over reassure. Let's say it's our child and they're worried or stressed or upset about something, and we tend to say, it's okay, it's going to be fine, you've done it so many times, nothing to be worried about, look, everyone else is having a good time, and so on. But that doesn't penetrate the anxious brain. It goes like ding, and they go, it doesn't stop the anxiety. They still have those worrisome thoughts.
And you're most probably, what's going on is you're not hearing me.
Yeah.
Like, inside it's like, and I see those faces, like when there's this confusion of, or shock, like, wait a minute, like, you're not actually hearing what I'm saying. Are you going to help me or not? Yeah.
That's a big thing. That is a big thing. We know, like, for any human, but especially kids, we want to feel seen and heard and understood, and like we matter, or what we're going through is important. And so to invalidate a child by over reassuring, you're going to be fine, it's not a big deal, just try it, all of those well-meaning things, which I'm sure I've said at one point or another, so I'm not perfect either, but like all of those things are actually telling our child what you're feeling and what you're experiencing isn't true. It's not real. You should feel be fine. You should be confident. It's like weaves into we tend to prescribe how kids should feel and what they should do in certain situations, rather than just validating where they're at and what they are feeling and experiencing, and allowing that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And if it's okay with you, can I go back to, well, I'm going to anyway, whether you like it or not. Yeah, no, I'm just going back to what you were saying about, your son running across the road with dogs, right? That's going to be a really great example of how to help, because, the way I see that is, he's like, dogs can be dangerous. So there's a valid reason that everyone can see, like that dogs can be dangerous. And so how do you navigate that? Like, what are you doing to support him?
Yeah, so it's actually a client of mine. It's not my son, but
okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, good.
What I do in my anxiety therapy, which is it's CBT, so it's very much how are we going to change the cognitions, so the thoughts around the dog and whether or not it's scary, and also the behavior, basically how we're going to stop the limit and reduce the avoidance through what we call a graded exposure. So gradually exposing him to the thing that provokes anxiety or is scary. So in this case, a dog. I actually worked with a girl last year, at least a year ago, and beautiful, like, family girl, was very afraid of dogs and birds and some other animals, but mainly dogs. And so we moved through the program that I do, which is a 10-week program. It's really highly evidence-based. It's a great program. And
which one's that?
It's called the Cool Kids Anxiety Program, and it was created through Macquarie University here in Sydney. So the psychology team put together many years ago, and they're still doing lots of evidence and research on it, because they're showing that it really helps. And it's something, an interesting statistic is something like 60-something%, I've got to check it, but 60-something% of kids who complete the program will lose their primary anxiety diagnosis. Like they would no longer meet the criteria for having this anxiety, the diagnosis. Which is huge. Like that's massive. Often they'll have comorbid anxiety or diagnoses, but still that's really huge. So anyway, and this girl I worked with it was either a few weeks or maybe a couple of months after we finished the program, her mum messaged me and said, my daughter loves dogs so much now. She kept bugging me and we eventually bought one, and here is like Toby. And I was like,
oh, that's awesome. That's so rewarding as a coach, right?
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh. So what we do is a bit of a two-pronged approach, helping the child to reach the conclusion that the thoughts or the cognitions they have about the thing are actually not quite true and not quite realistic, and they are more negative rather than neutral or maybe even positive. So for example, that a child might have, I'm mixing a few kids I've worked with, the dog's going to bite me, and another one is the dog's going to chase me and I won't be able to get away. So they're possible, but they're quite unrealistic or unlikely, because most dogs don't bite. And most dogs actually wouldn't chase unless you start to run away. Like they'll come and and sniff and lick, that kind of thing. So we help the child through certain strategies of what we call like detective thinking, which is just helping our child become like a detective around their thoughts and the situation, and thinking what usually happens when I see a dog or when other people see dogs. What's happened to other people? What are the facts about dogs? How often have dogs bitten me or people I know? What's most likely to happen? What would I do if that bad thing did happen? So we're gathering evidence about the likelihood of that scary thought happening. And the kids start to realize, because we're gently bringing it to their awareness, we're not reassuring them, he doesn't bite you. Have you ever been bitten? You've never been bitten. No one in our family's been bitten. You're going to be totally fine. We're not doing that. We're going, wow, so no one in your family has ever been bitten. Okay, let's write that down. That's like 5 people never been bitten. So we're gathering evidence.
Wow.
It gradually shows the child like, yeah, I guess like you're right.
I'm being a little bit irrational, but it's not coming from the parent or anybody else. It's coming from the internal assessment.
They need to make the they need to make the conclusions themselves, and we just help them know how to do that. It's like if you're like, what car should I buy, Tim? I really need, and if you're thinking about this one car, Toyota or something, and he goes, oh babe, you really have a look at this, what's another, Holden, have a look at this one. Like, and if someone's trying to change your mind, you actually never really, like, it's very rare that you're like, yeah, good idea. Okay. You've convinced me. You're usually like, there's something about this one. Like, it's very hard for another outside person to change your thought processes and your beliefs unless it comes from you first. Like, that.
Right? Yeah. You know what's really cool about that? I'm just looking at, how many parents have, like, we're all conditioned to for our children to be succeeding in life and being the best, and going up the ladder even before they go into kindergarten. Like everyone's got to have the best child and the best, like my kid's the smartest and my kid's this, and my kid went to university and blah blah blah. Oh my gosh, just think of the level of skill set that a child has had that opportunity and been taught and conditioned to self-assess at that level, at that age. That is like a superpower. When you think about what you're saying about you as an adult making all of those, how many women do you know, or how many people do you know that have that mind talk, chatter, that inner critic that they say in NLP, right? that's constantly, did I do this? Da, 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 da. And to have that level of conditioning from childhood to, like that assessment happens so quickly because it's being conditioned in from a child. Like that's a major superpower, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, it's, I wish I had this program when I was younger.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, do I? Because then I may not have ended up here being an anxiety therapist and doing my parent work. And but man, things would have been a lot easier, and I would have been a lot less stressed and a lot more confident and brave. And I think I would have tried a lot of different things and not worried not worried so much what people thought and things like that. So I think, I wish things like emotional intelligence and even understanding thoughts and anxiety and those emotions, all the emotions, not just anxiety, but would be in schools. Actually, like I remember posting about this ages ago, and I copped some flack about it. I was like, shouldn't schools be like really educating our kids about how to be in the world rather than just this academic slice of the pie, like with emotional intelligence and with yoga and meditation and nutrition and like cooking and finance, but opening bank accounts and tax,
how to actually do a tax, tax, and a little bit about the law and what are your rights, and and
then people were like, teachers are not raising our kids. That's the parent job. And I'm like, I know, but like, come on, there's a lot of shit in the curriculum that we don't.
Well, there's a lot of shit in the curriculum that we don't need, right? And then there's stuff that like, just to counteract that conversation, there's a lot of stuff in there that parents should be teaching their kids, like sex education. That shouldn't be taught by someone that doesn't have your back actually, and is just going through the motions, and doesn't talk to you about the intimacy and the the emotions of that, and how you feel if you're in love, and like if you're being pressured, and blah 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 blah, like all of those things, and they teach that. So why is it? Yes, I agree with you. Like, imagine, yes, parents should be teaching it, but none of us were taught. And so therefore there's this dysfunction in society, right? We're totally disconnected, feeling judged by self and others, and and anxiety as parents as well, and humans and adults, and it would make a huge difference, wouldn't it, if we went back to basics of how to be and how to feel fulfilled and loved and honored. And
I think unfortunately, as you just said, a lot of us don't know and weren't taught how to be fulfilled and take care of ourselves and what's important, like self-care and mental health days. They're all buzzwords. People like, we haven't been taught it. If from the older generations, if I'm really generalizing, which I know it's not everyone, but it's a waste of time. Or back in my day, like, we just had to get up and go to work, and young ones these days, you got all the technology, like it's a real, like, what, don't bother, toughen up sort of thing. So that's unhelpful, because the times and the culture that our 0 to 20-year-olds are experiencing now is very different. I'm not saying the, like, my parents' age and 60, 70, 80-year-olds had a beautiful, like, stress-free childhood and growing up. No, but this, I can't, neither of us can really comment on the other, but I think just removing a bit of that judgment maybe, and validating that, yes, we have social media, yes, we had COVID, and the rates of anxiety and depression and all those kind of things, like suicide, like we, just looking at those statistics, you go, well, something's really wrong. Maybe we don't.
That's right.
And maybe we do things. But as you said, like, we don't, I think, unfortunately, our culture doesn't value things like self-care, mental health days, meeting anxiety where it's at and supporting it. We have, I saw it, I was sent an article from a local MP who'd written, from a friend, sorry, from someone who had written, an MP had written about school refusal and a bit of a tough love approach, and like the school can't community, which is obviously the parents who have kids who really are refusing school. They were like up in arms about saying, wow, you're essentially encouraging us to just toughen up, to just get our kids to the gate and like somehow, and then you guys take over and pull them in. Like, what are we doing to these kids who are not choosing to be anxious or stressed, and not choosing to have fear, like cortisol, adrenaline, like that flooding of their system, and then just saying, I don't care, get out of bed, get dressed, somehow get you in the car. Like these kids,
the trauma to, yeah.
Anyway, I think also we demonize self-care and slowing down and saying no and having boundaries and just taking care of ourselves. Like it's seen really positively when you push through, like people in the workplace. Jane stays late, she goes above and beyond, she never misses a day, takes on whatever we give her. I'm like, oh shit, like we're like praising that kind of thing, where me gets put down here, and the work and the goals and the money or the income or the sales or whatever, and I do for everyone else
gets put onto. Yeah, that's the results. But also another thing, did I get this from you or somewhere else? But somewhere I heard someone saying, or wrote somewhere about how children these days, because we're living in the family with two parents working, and kids going into daycare, from 6 weeks old, and that sort of thing, that these days the children are being conditioned and programmed and taught by other children and the media. That was you. Yeah. and so you think about that, like one of the things that I know about you see about this generation, and I'm generalizing now, but how often do you see kids that have got no self-respect, they've got no work ethics, like how often do you whinge and complain about some young kid that's just served you at blah, 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 because, and, you didn't get the service, they didn't even look at you, they didn't, offer the service that we were brought up and raised with, like the thank yous and can I do anything else for you or whatever it might be. None of that happened. Like when you see it, it's rare, right? And so actually, as I'm saying that, I'm actually thinking that there's this underlying lethargic energy from children because they have disassociated as little ones because of their conditioning from the environment, right? So they disassociate completely, and we all think that it's just because they're self-centered or whatever, but they're actually is a trauma response.
Yeah,
I only just thought of that.
Wow, kids need.
I don't know if that's the case or not, but like it potentially could be. Like it's a self-isolation because they haven't had the interaction that they should in the healthy way. Yeah.
So what kids need, and I know you've read from Gabor Mate. This is one of his other books, Gabor Mate and Gordon Neufeld, and this is the book that we spoke about the other week. Hold on to your kids. And he talks about the orientation of kids going away from being oriented to their parents and caregivers and grandparents and having those values and those lessons instilled. And that attachment is really, really important. It's like one of the one of the big biological drivers for humans. Like they need that attachment. They'll attach to a monkey if you have a child and a monkey kind of thing. So the other way is now a lot of kids are being oriented towards their peers because they're in care so early, because they're, parents are working, both parents are working, and kids are in after school care and before school care and And so now we're learning off our peers who do not unconditionally love us, who are very judgmental, because that's where the egocentric, young, immature brain is at. And, with all their they don't have the sophisticated wiring that we do around empathy and understanding when they stuff up, give them the benefit of the doubt, or they hit me, it was probably an accident. And like that, kids cannot raise kids. So
yeah.
There's a lot happening.
A lot happening, yeah. And that's why it's I love the work that you're doing and the way you're supporting parents and children to come back into looking at what their emotions are and how they function and how to assess them and how to respond instead of react, right? So if people, this is the last session, so if anyone's been watching, how can they get in contact with you and find out more about how to raise emotionally intelligent children?
So probably a couple of main ways. First one is just my website. You can get in touch with me there, stephaniepinto.com. On there, you'll find a page at the top that has my book, where you can find your Amazon link for this book, From Chaos to Connections. That's all about how parenting with emotional intelligence raises kind, confident, resilient kids. And then I'm really active on my group on Facebook, which is called Let's Raise Emotionally Intelligent Kids. So, yes.
Awesome. And you can put the links in underneath once we're finished so that people can jump in and grab that. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you and having you here for the month of March.
Yeah, I just want to share my gratitude with you, because you hold this space for other people, for Brenda and for others before her, and for me for this period of time. And it's every week, it's the space where I get to talk about what is meaningful for me, and you hold the space so beautifully, and you ask so many questions and just share it with your community. So thank you. That's really, really something.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm gonna miss you. So for those that are watching and want to know what's going on in April, we will be talking completely like turn the page. We're talking to Casey Lightbody, and we're going to be talking about business and marketing and all that sort of stuff, and being a quiet rebel. So it's going to be heaps of fun. She's an amazing woman. She's my mentor, my business mentor, and completely left of what we've been talking about, jazzing it up.
That's gonna be awesome. Wow, I'll tune in for sure.
Yeah. Take care, everyone, and we'll speak soon. Thanks, Steph.
Bye.